It is New Year's Eve, and like I promised myself I would, I'm swapping my SIM card from my iPhone to this flip phone. I've done smartphone cleanses a couple of times before, and I find that they really improve my mental health, mainly in that it just keeps my day flowing a little bit better. When I've done this in the past, I haven't set a definite start and end to it. My intention in the past has been to just replace my smartphone altogether and never have it again. And I've found that there are too many downsides to make that 100% realistic, or at least that was the case the last time I attempted this. So for right now, I'm just gonna say that this is my New Year's cleanse, kind of my January resolution to go the entire month of January with this flip phone. So now what we're gonna do is the SIM card swap. I remember this being an absolutely massive pain. So the last iPhone that I had a little slot on the side where you could take your SIM card out, and this one doesn't seem to have that. So I'm turning it back on to Google if there's any way of getting the SIM card out. There is no physical SIM on this phone. It's an eSIM, so I can't do this tonight, and I'm gonna have to go to our phone provider. I'm hoping that they can just give me a SIM for this phone. I just got back from the AT&T store, and it was super quick and easy to get a SIM card with my number into this phone. I'm really surprised that that went as smoothly as it did, but I'm super grateful. So it is January 1st, and No Smartphone January has officially begun. No Smartphone Day 1 is coming to an end, and I thought I would document it. I'm not gonna document every day of this experience by any means, but I wanted to document day 1 just to kind of show how I did my first day and share any kind of thoughts and feelings that I had. This actually went really well, and I knew it would. This is always a refresher, but what I really appreciated about day 1 kind of falling on today was my husband was out of the house hanging out with some of his friends for several hours, and normally when I'm home alone, that's when I really fall apart and end up going down like these insane smartphone rabbit holes where I'm just blindly scrolling on social media for an hour or 2 hours and not really spending my downtime constructively. And today didn't feel like that at all. I had an absolutely fantastic rest day. Before Scott left, we ate lunch and we played some video games together. And then I got to work on music, and that felt super productive. I was really locked into the piano for a solid hour and a half at least. And then I came out here, made myself some dinner, watched some TV, and then got to play about an hour of Animal Crossing, which I find super relaxing. And I'll give you guys a quick little room tour and a quick little outfit check. But that was my day, and I'm feeling significantly better than I normally do on these home alone reset days. Normally I leave these feeling like I could have used my time 1,000 times better, and I don't feel that way. I'm really happy about the way that this day is gone. I'm not having as hard of time texting on this phone as I thought. The last couple times I did this, I felt like it took a while to reset with the texting, but I guess muscle memory served me well. Yeah, that's pretty much the end of my day. Scott's on his way home. I'm going to edit what I have so far of this video, and then I'll just keep you updated with some periodic thoughts, feelings, updates as this month goes on. Okay, it is the end of No Smartphone Day 2, and I didn't expect to come back with updates this early, and I promise that this video will not turn into some long-winded log of like every single day, but I had some really interesting experiences right off the bat that I wanted to share. First of all, I ran into my first downside this morning. My car, it's out of commission right now, and so my husband and I are sharing a car right now. He needed the car today, so I was faced with Uber, and I couldn't order my own Uber, so he had to order the Uber for me. After work, I met a friend for dinner, and she ended up being amazing and driving me home. but like just that lack of control where I can't pull out my phone and order my own Uber and be in control of my own transportation on the rare day where I do not have the car was very interesting. It made me feel a little bit helpless and dependent, which I didn't love, but everything went super, super smoothly. The second thing was when I was meeting my friend at the restaurant, there was a little bit of a wait time between when I got there and when she got there. And I experienced just standing there, nothing occupying me, not on my phone, just standing there in the entryway of a restaurant, looking at nothing and doing nothing. And it felt so surprisingly vulnerable and odd. And I was really afraid of being perceived as like suspicious, because we're so used to seeing the people around us occupying themselves at all times and looking down at their phones when there's nothing else going on around them. And I was uncomfortable and self-conscious to a degree that far exceeded my expectations. And I really only was able to sit in this weird silence for 2 or 3 minutes before I sat down at a table and got my bullet journal out and just started journaling to give myself something to do. And it was really nice that instead of defaulting to doing something really piddly and unproductive like scrolling Instagram, I took the opportunity to express my thoughts and feelings and I journaled it out. But it did make me realize how used to having something to occupy those transitory moments at all times we've become, and how strange it is to sit through a period of waiting or a period of transition with nothing to occupy our minds in the meantime. So very, very interesting day 2 as well. I will continue to document upsides and downsides as I experience them. Hopefully I won't have something to say every single day because I want this to stay a reasonably length vlog, but day 2, just as interesting as day 1. It is no smartphone day 4 or 5, and I'm about to navigate with the Google Map feature on this phone. There are 2 things about it that really bother me so far. One is that you can't get in on the settings and choose your route, and you also can't get in there and edit it to say, don't take me on toll roads, don't take me on highways, etc. It's not very customizable. And the other thing is that you have to click for your directions, and it doesn't automatically realize that you're at the end of one set of directions and that you need the next. And I don't like the idea of, while I'm driving, having to glance down at it or click through directions. So I've looked at my directions several times and kind of tried to memorize what I'm doing. But this is gonna be very, very interesting. I will keep you updated. Mission accomplished. I actually got to my destination without too many issues. I was glancing down at my phone much, much more than I'm comfortable with while driving, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to reduce that a little bit. My sense of direction is the worst sense of direction of anyone I've ever known, so for other people it probably would be even easier than it was for me. But I'm hoping that this whole exercise with the phone and the GPS helps me kind of get my bearings a little bit more, because I did notice that I had to pay a lot more attention to, you know, where I was going, street signs, names of highways, landmarks, like all that good stuff. So this might be a healthy thing for me. It's day 11 and I'm about to head to the gym for the first time since I started all of this. Normally I go to the gym twice a week, but I've been taking a break recently because things have just been so busy with the holiday season. With that aside, I'm back today and I am about to rehash one of the things that I remember being the biggest struggle the last time I did a smartphone cleanse, and that is music in the gym. So right now I have this leftover CD player from last time. I've got a couple of CDs that I think have enough energy to work out with, and this is what I'm gonna be doing for now. So this is the first major moment of downside. That was the worst workout on planet Earth. My CD player, first of all, if you don't keep it completely flat, the CD will stop and then start completely over. So I was struggling with where to place it at any given time. And then about a third of the way through my workout, my CD player just died. Thankfully, this phone does have an FM radio, so I just plugged my headphones into the phone, tuned into the radio, but kind of my struggle last time was that there's no guarantee that the radio is going to be playing energetic music that will get you through a workout. Surfing back and forth between 4 different radio stations to find energetic music and to avoid commercials really takes you out of the workout. So after my CD player died, the rest of the workout happened. I mean, it was fine, I got through it, but it was by no means an exciting, fulfilling, good workout. It's day 16. I'm at the airport, and traveling without a smartphone was absolutely no problem. I was able to print off a boarding pass, and I just read my Kindle on the entire flight. Much, much easier than I expected. I'm just sitting here waiting for my mom to come pick me up right now, and I do want to note that this far in, I'm also starting to become a lot more comfortable with waiting periods. And instead of immediately reaching for a distraction or feeling super weird, just kind of sitting by myself, I'm able to be a lot more in the moment and even just sit quietly without reading a book or writing in my journal or anything. I'm finding it super, super easy to just kind of zone out, be where I am, take in the surroundings, and wait. And I'm really happy that that kind of constant need for stimulation and distraction seems to have gone away so fast. It is February 1st, day 32 of my No Smartphone Challenge. There were a lot of high points, a couple of low points. We're gonna start with the low points because there were way fewer low points than there were high points. This was not my first stint with a flip phone. I did this for about 6 months, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I noticed a lot of the same low points this time as I did last time. For some reason, they didn't seem quite as impactful this time around, but there were patterns. The main pattern that I noticed that I absolutely remember complaining about last time, probably my primary low point this time, was communication. Most of my friends and family are out of state. I'm definitely not a huge day-to-day communicator. I really like my space and quiet, but I did notice that I was communicating with friends and family much, much less frequently than I do when I have a smartphone. And I think the main reason behind that is this numeric keyboard. So I had to go back to kind of the traditional old school way of texting. The learning curve really wasn't awful. Those skills came back relatively fast, but this phone, and I'm not sure if it's this model, the Alcatel in general, or if it's just the phone that I personally have, but this phone doesn't really allow you to type very fast. When you start texting relatively quickly, there are a lot of flaws and errors that come up. I found myself having to text really, really slowly and correct weird little errors that the phone would come up with. And so it kept me from really being able to text at length like I normally would on an iPhone with the full keyboard or with talk to text or with voice memos. It was really hard to get a long thought out. Now, I will say that that did drive me to start emailing and calling a little bit more. Again, definitely not communicating at the same rate that I did before, but I did find ways around it. I did find other methods, but the texting, by far the weakest point of this phone. My other downside was navigation. So this phone does have a GPS. It uses Google Maps. I'm very grateful for that because I have an absolutely abysmal, horrific sense of direction, and there's no way that I could navigate even the area that I've lived in forever without a GPS. This GPS though is a little bit less capable than other GPSs. You really have no choice in your route. So when you GPS an address, it shows you what Google Maps perceives as the optimized route, and that's your one choice. And you have to manually click through the GPS to get to your next direction. So it will force you to at least a little bit look at your phone while you're driving. Last downside is, of course, access to music. So this phone has no access to Spotify, which is what I'm used to get my music. I have been shopping for CDs, which has been a lot of fun. I have a pretty solid CD collection, but not having access to my playlist, not being able to share music back and forth with other people, it was a little bit of a challenge, especially for working out. This phone has a crappy little radio that I tried to use at the gym, but trying to work out through commercials and all that and slow songs and what have you, it's very challenging, really demotivating. So I did end up switching from going to the gym to just doing home workouts on YouTube. I've really liked that so far. It's been nice, but I do miss being able to go to the gym, have my gym playlist, and have that really punchy, effective workout at my own pace. But moving on to the positives, I felt like there were way more positives than negatives. The biggest thing that I noticed in a positive direction was just my use of time. I was never one of those people that was just absolutely glued to my phone 24/7. The main issue that I had was transitional times, or times where I really didn't have a task set for myself. Like after I would get home from work, I would have a tendency to sit in my car for 20 or 30 minutes on my smartphone on social media before I would come upstairs. Or if my husband was out of the house and he had something to do, we weren't hanging out together, I would maybe be productive and do something creative for a minute and then fall down an hour or two of scrolling on TikTok, scrolling on Instagram, whatever. Obviously that completely went away. I've found that I have been using my time so much more effectively, and even those weird piddly moments of downtime where I can't really figure out what to do, they're way more short-lived. They still exist, but it's not like a 2-hour buffer where I'm just glued to a screen. Eventually the boredom does get to me. I do get up, do something else. I have been painting. I've written 2 or 3 new songs in a month, which I think I wrote 2 or 3 new songs all year last year. I have watched a ton of movies. I have really gotten some good concentrated TV show watching time. I've been reading a lot. I've been spending more time outside, spending more time with the dogs. I've found that my time is just being used a little more effectively. Even when I'm kind of being lazy and doing nothing, I think it's much more satisfying to have a concentrated period of time where you're hooked into a story and you're watching a TV show or playing a video game or reading a book than it is just to kind of aimlessly scroll through a ton of random media. I have a billion hobbies that I like to juggle between, and usually I'll concentrate on 1 or 2 at a time, and the rest will kind of go on the back burner for indefinite periods of time. But without the smartphone to distract me, I feel like I've been balancing all of my hobbies really well, and everything has gotten a solid amount of attention, which is an amazing, amazing feeling. I will also say, on a positive note, mental clarity and attention span has improved so much. I found with the smartphone that I had a really hard time doing absolutely nothing, or that I couldn't handle small downtime periods without a distraction. If I was waiting in line at a restaurant, or even like taking the dogs outside, waiting for them to use the restroom, what have you, I would immediately pull out my phone and distract myself. With the lack of smartphone, my brain has kind of reprogrammed itself to not need constant stimulation, constant distraction. I have a really easy time, even a month in, just sitting outside, watching the trees, looking at the lake, doing absolutely nothing. I am super satisfied with the way that my mind has kind of been able to slow down and really live in the world. And that's a feeling that I haven't really had aside from the last period of time I went through without a smartphone since I was a kid. I also found that my time around other people is much more quality. On that note, I've also noticed how much time other people spent on their phones, which has been a little bit strange, but when I'm hanging out with friends, when I'm hanging out with family, there's not that distraction, you know, during downtime, during the more calm moments, I'm not taking out my phone and removing myself from my present environment or removing myself from the person in front of me. I'm able to really spend the full period of time that I have around other people engaged with those other people without distraction. And even though in between in-person hangouts I'm communicating with other people much less, I think those in-person hangouts have become 10 times more satisfying. Speaking of being present with what's in front of you and interacting with the tangible world, I also think it's been really, really fun to look for physical media again. Instead of just downloading everything online, downloading everything onto my smartphone, now I have the excuse to go to record stores and shop for CDs, which is super, super fun. It makes me appreciate the music that I have 1,000 times more because it actually takes effort to acquire it. And on that note, I think I've also saved a ton of money because one of my favorite things to do in my downtime when there was nothing else to do and I had a smartphone was go onto clothing websites that I really like and shop online, and it almost always led to me actually buying something. So I'm sure I've saved a couple $100s this month. And probably my last upside and one of my favorites is the starting of this YouTube channel. With the lack of Instagram and TikTok to upload kind of day-to-day life things to, I've started leaning fully on this channel, and I think that making videos of day-to-day life, making these little vlogs, is 1,000 times more satisfying, and it'll be way more fun to look back on because it'll give me a much fuller picture of what my life was like at this time than just seeing a couple of photos here and there or a 10 to 30 second video. I've had so much fun moving all of my social media use to this channel and capturing things in a much more mindful and complete way. And I also think it's a lot of fun to edit these videos. It's given me a fun new hobby. Overall, I think there are far more pros than cons to getting a flip phone. It's something I would highly, highly recommend to anybody who's interested. And instead of making it a no smartphone January challenge and getting my smartphone back today, I'm definitely going to continue using this flip phone indefinitely. I'm not sure if it's a forever thing or not, but I'm definitely gonna keep going with this as long as I possibly can because I think the benefits just so far outweigh the downsides.